ICSOM's series of monthly videos to feature our musicians of color. I am Paul Austin, ICSOM president and a horn player in the Grand Rapids Symphony. I'm very pleased to be speaking today with Detroit Symphony Orchestra's principal trombonist, Ken Thompkins. Ken is my colleague on ICSOM's governing board and joined as a member at large in 2021. He also co-chairs ICSOM's DEI committee and is the voice for ICSOM's Facebook page. Before joining the Detroit Symphony Orchestra in 1997, Ken was a member of two other ICSOM orchestras, the Buffalo Philharmonic and the Florida Orchestra. Today, Ken is much in demand as a trombone soloist and champions new music for the instrument. This coming May, Ken and the DSO will be performing the world premiere of a trombone concerto written for him by Carlos Simon, based upon 19th century African-American abolitionist William Still's accounts of being the father of the Underground Railroad. So welcome, Ken.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to be sitting down and talking to you. I mean, I know you through the governing board, but I'm looking forward today to getting to know you more as a musician.
Paul, what would you like to know?
Well, we've got 5 questions, only 5, so I promise not to go beyond that. But so the first question is basically, do you recall the first time that you heard an orchestra? And if the answer is yes, tell us about it.
I remember the first time I heard an orchestra live, which was it was sometime in middle school, and the Baltimore Symphony came to the local high school, which was within walking distance of the middle school. So we walked to the high school and heard the Baltimore Symphony play. And what is striking about that event is not that I was so turned on by the symphony or what I heard, but I remember my band director, Mr. Lewis, who's a Black band director, and he pointed out to me that one of the trumpet players, Langston Fitzgerald, taught him at Morgan State. And he was talking to me about how great he was. So Langston Fitzgerald's Black. And that just kind of stuck in my mind. I remembered it, but it, I can't say it impacted me like I wanted to be an orchestra musician because of that event, but it was something I remember and I enjoyed the concert. So which, when we talk about representation, I think it's very important to remember even little events like that do make a difference. I had no idea at that point that I would become an orchestral musician, but I do remember Langston Fitzgerald in the Baltimore Symphony. And then my teacher, who's also Black, pointing him out to me and talking about what a great musician he was. And so, I didn't necessarily think that it was abnormal for Black people to be playing in orchestras, because there it was right in front of my face. At a young age, I saw this happening.
That's great. We're going to get word to the Baltimore Symphony about the impact that had. Those school concerts do make a difference. They
do. And he's gone, Langston Fitzgerald's gone on to teach at, different schools. Right now, he's teaching at Penn State. He's been there for many years.
So now that you've heard an orchestra and of all the instruments that you saw, what led you to the trombone?
I think I was led to the trombone by the same band director, Mr. Lewis, who I was playing baritone, horn, and tuba, and he suggested that I play trombone. And he lent me a trombone over the summer in a beginning methods book. And so then I just started playing trombone over the summer. No one really started me. I just started messing around with it. And the following year, I started taking private lessons. And that's pretty much how it happened. It was kind of, he suggested it. I was like, okay. And I just started playing trombone.
Yeah. He's an important person in your background for your.
Oh, for sure.
Great. So Ken, was there an aha moment when you knew that you wanted to become a professional orchestral musician?
Yeah, there really was, and something I'll never forget, because I feel like a lot of things in my life just kind of happened. I had a lot of guidance and a lot of support. I didn't cultivate it. It was just there. I was just very fortunate to have a lot of opportunities and a lot of people looking out for me. I didn't even realize it, but these things were just just kind of happening. So people have always been very generous towards me. And I, in turn, at this point, try to be generous towards other people just to pay it back, because this is how we evolve and, you know, get better as a society. We bring each other along. But this moment, I remember I was a freshman at Northwestern University, and speaking of things just happening, I went to Northwestern because the principal trombonist of the Baltimore Symphony, Jim Olin, who's now retired, was like, "You should go to Northwestern." I went to Northwestern. It's great. I had a great time. Da 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 da. And you know, I didn't know anything really. I was like, okay, and that's how I really ended up going to Northwestern. And so, you know, when you get there and everyone's like, "Oh, you have to go hear the Chicago Symphony," and I was studying with the second trombonist of the Chicago Symphony at that time, Frank Crisafulli. And so I went to a concert. In my first concert, they played Mahler 1. Mahler 1, you know, it's a great piece. And I was sitting there before the concert listening to people just, you know, warming up. And Adolf Herstuff was warming up, and George Vosberg was there at the time, was warming up. And I was like, I mean, honestly, God, I never heard people play brass instruments like that, in so fluid and so spectacular a fashion, just doing their warm-ups, you know. And then, you know, by the time, you know, the symphony goes on, you get to the fourth movement and the horns stand up and play the theme. It's all exciting. And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. I want to do that, you know. And it really wasn't until that moment that I was like, I really want to do that. So I was like, this is great. You know, it was so different and fantastic, and it was a spectacle. You know, it just sounded terrific. So I just loved it. But you know, I mean, I had heard orchestras before, some very good orchestras, and I've been exposed to brass playing before, really fine brass playing. But that was something. That was really beyond my conception of what the instruments could sound like. You know, so that was just kind of like type of moment.
Sounds like everything lined up that day. Mahler and brass and Chicago Symphony, and it all came together for you at the right time.
Yes, it did. It really did.
So now you've been in the Detroit Symphony for 25 years or so. Is there a special concert that you will always remember?
You know, I think I'll remember some of the concerts we did on tour. So we had some special concerts with Neme Yarvi, my first season here on tour. It was a very long, grueling tour. We did, I think, Shostakovich 10 or 11 with him. So Neme is Estonian, and so he is well aware of Russian oppression and knew Shostakovich. And I think he really felt that music and understood it on a level that really us as Americans can't at this point understand that type of oppression. Maybe some people can, but most of us not. So those concerts were really fantastic. You know, and he was and still is such a organic type of musician that he can make really mundane, bland pieces of music transform into something spectacular.
Great. Great. So now, if today's Ken Thompkins could give himself a piece of advice during his student days, what might that be?
Well, you know, take advantage of the resources that are upon you, and you know, just understand that, you know, development isn't a straight shot to the moon. There's always setbacks, and, you know, and then along the way, you're going to have some really great moments. Then you're going to have some like not spectacular moments, and it's just part of it's just part of really performance, and it's pretty normal. I mean, I haven't met a musician yet that has perfect performances all the time. So advice to my younger self would be just to be more patient with my development and have an understanding that not everything is in a straight line. You know, they're gonna have setbacks and then successes, and then live performance is something totally different. You know, because some people, you know, you hear like really fantastic musicians like have kind of off nights, and that's pretty normal. You know, not everyone sounds 100% all of the time. So, you know, that's just something to have a basic understanding about.
Allowing ourselves to be human. That sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
And then, you know, when you're playing in an ensemble, that, you know, I think a large part of my concept of it is like I'm there, of course, to do my job and to sound great on my part, but also to contribute and have other people sound really great also. So I'm supporting and playing in a complementary fashion, so everything sounds better. It's not just about, you know, my little part, you know, because most of the time I'm accompanying. So, you know, yeah. So, you know, if I can help have the whole sound fantastic, that's great.
So an unselfish approach to brass playing. That's nice.
Yeah, I try that, you know, to be that way.
So Ken, I promised you 5 questions and you've answered them, but I wanted to take a moment at the end, if they're for a final thought that you'd like to pass along, share anything that you'd like to share that we haven't covered.
Well, I talked about it a little bit, but you know, as far as you know, people being generous towards me, and then I try to be generous in return towards people I meet, especially younger musicians. You know, even my colleagues in the DSO who are experienced musicians have a sense of understanding and empathy towards them. And then also that, you know, for anything to be successful, it takes a lot of effort in different ways. And it's not just one thing, but many things that lead to success. And it just strikes me like how much it actually takes. Like the longer I'm in this and I can reflect upon my past and the experiences that I've had a lot of privileges and just, you know, things that a lot of people just are not exposed to or have access to that I've had. And it takes a lot to be successful in them. I'm very aware of that. So that's another reason to, you know, pass it along and be generous towards people, because, you know, I realize that some of the opportunities I've had, a lot of people don't have. And so I feel it's a duty of mine to help and to help provide access and opportunities for other people.
Well, with that, we wrap up our conversation with ICSOM musician Ken Thompkins. Ken, thank you so much for sitting down with me today so we can get to know you a bit more.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.